My name is Sam, 65 years old, retired, Arizona. The coffee machine that always makes noise in the morning, and the smell of Marlene's pancakes. I used to think that this was happiness. What else does an old guy need? My children have moved away. My grandchildren don't call me very often, but it's good. I have a garden. I have a TV. I have my wife. What more can I ask for? Marlene and I have been married for 42 years. We met at a gas station in Tucson. She spilled coffee on her white blouse, and I gave her a napkin and said something stupid liking, "It's a sign from above." And she laughed. She always laughed so hard that I wanted to live. We worked all our lives. I as an electrician, she as a nurse, and then at home. After she was 60, we started saving for the same house by the lake. We bought a trailer and planned to travel. But everything was somehow postponed. It was relatives, surgeries, a pandemic, or something else. But that day was different. She was silent at breakfast. Not because she was angry, but because she was strange. I was still joking, saying that she had forgotten my name. And she looked at me and said, "Would you like another TV in your bedroom?" It was a strange question. I can barely keep up with one. But I waved my hand, saying that if you want it, buy it. I thought she was just bored. 2 days later, I received a letter. In a real envelope. Reminder of overdue payment. $5,000 due in 3 months. From a bank whose name I didn't even recognize. At first I thought it was spam. But my name was there. And my address. I went up to her and asked her directly, "What is this?" She flinched. For a moment briefly. But I saw it, and I heard, "I'll take care of it. It's a mistake." And I was a fool. To believe it, I lay that night. I couldn't sleep. I lay on the couch and looked at the ceiling. My thoughts were like flies in a jar, loud and disorderly. I was not a suspicious person. I trusted. But there are moments when your heart starts to tell you something else. I remembered how we used to save money on bread to pay for our son's education. How she used to bake cookies to sell. How we used to sleep in the car because we had no place to stay. And now, TVs, loans, banks. Something was gnawing at me from the inside. If I had known that this was just the tip of the iceberg. I even joked in the kitchen. "You didn't open olefins while I was sleeping, did you?" She didn't laugh. I thought, well, maybe it was a stupid joke. Or maybe it's no time for jokes. The next morning I was already sitting at my laptop. An old HP that I used only to watch YouTube and check my email. But now I was a detective. I typed in the name of the bank, the date, the amount. And each page gave me new cracks in my peace of mind. Do you know what it's like to feel like you're being played for a fool? That someone is walking through your house and covering their tracks while you believed it was just a shadow falling. It's not like a punch in the face. It's like water dripping on your forehead. Constantly, and with each drop, you realize that you are being deceived. Not for the first time. I decided to check the drawer in her dresser. The one where she kept her womanly things. Where I never went. And you know what? I found another envelope. And another one, and another. But the worst part was that they were open, and filled. Not forgotten. They were thought over. I stood there with those papers in my hands and thought, "Sam, you just opened a door. But what is there, a room? Or an abyss?" To be continued. But even then I realized that what I called the perfect life was just a cardboard set. And behind it, a completely different scene. A completely different Marlene. I was sitting in the kitchen with a stack of letters in front of me. Ordinary white envelopes. But what was inside cut me deeper than any steak knife. The first one was 5,000. The second, 7. The third, 3 more. Under each piece of paper was my name as an additional borrower. But here's the thing I never signed. And I don't remember a single refrigerator. Because that's what she told me when I brought it up again. "Sam, it's just." I took some to update the kitchen. It's a fridge, a microwave, a couple of small things. For $15,000. I asked, as if politely, but with my blood starting to boil. Or for those of you listening, when was the last time you changed your refrigerator? And how much did it cost? 30,000. Otherwise, I don't know what could be in a telescope. A switch to another reality. Maybe I don't understand something. Maybe it massages your feet while you take out the oil. Maybe it greets you with Morgan Freeman's voice when you open the door. But I went down to the basement and saw the same old Kenmore, 10 years old, humming like a tractor when it starts. And then I did something that changed everything. I opened her laptop. For the first time. In our entire life together. The password is the name of our first cat. Mitch Classic. But for some reason it's funny, because that cat once bit my ear, and maybe not for nothing mail. It was full. Messages from banks, online loans, some leasing services. The worst thing is the answers. From her. Everything was organized. Every application, every calculation. She didn't impulsively click on anything. She knew what she was doing. Dear Samuel M. Carter confirms complicity in the financial obligation. Except that I, Sam, didn't confirm anything. I didn't sign anything. I was sitting with that laptop like a schoolboy with a diary where you can't hide the F's. For some reason, I remembered how she once cried when I bought a new instrument without asking. $200. There was a scandal then. We have to consult, she shouted. And now there are loans. Behind my back, silence. Not and do you know what the worst thing is? Not even the debts, not the signatures, not the fact that she had been doing this for years. It's the fact that I was sitting across from her, eating the same pancakes, listening to her stories, and I had no idea. How? How can you live with someone for so many years and not see that little crack that became an abyss? I decided not to remain silent. I confronted her with the fact. Did you open loans in my name? She was silent. For a long time, and then she said quietly, You wouldn't have let me anyway, but I had to. We needed to. What exactly did we need, Marlene? What? And she burst into tears, for the first time in years. I wanted you to feel like everything was okay, that we could afford it, that we are. Still living, not just getting by. And then it hit me. Because she meant it sincerely. Marlene was not a fraud. She was a woman who was afraid of old age. She was afraid of not being interesting to anyone. She was afraid that we no longer live, but simply exist. But fear is no excuse. A lie is not a form of love. And I told her, you could have told me. We could have come up with something. We could have together. And she just looked down. I knew you would hate me. And I didn't know what to say. That evening I received a call, and I didn't know the number. Mr. Carter, we're from a collection agency. You have an overdue amount of $23,000. If you don't call us by Monday. I hung up the phone. I looked at her. She was sitting in the kitchen, looking out the window, and she hadn't moved. How much longer, Marlene? More than I can count. And then I realized that we were no longer just in debt. We are in the mud. And to get out, we had to do it together or never. I woke up at 4 a.m. Not because I couldn't sleep. My body wanted to sleep. But my brain was spinning like a squirrel in a wheel. Marlene was still asleep. Quietly. She was breathing evenly, as if nothing had happened. And I was sitting in a chair by the window with a cup of coffee and a laptop. And do you know what I typed into Google? How do I find out how many loans have been issued to me without my permission? Yes, this is what it's like to be in the 21st century. Our parents once sought salvation in prayer. And we are looking for salvation in a search engine. Google instead of a priest. YouTube instead of a psychologist. And the bank is the same devil sitting in the basement laughing. 15 minutes later, I was on the credit bureau's website. I passed the verification. I entered the last 4 digits of my SSN. A couple of clicks and bingo. It was all there, a complete report. My financial X-ray, and it showed more than a tumor one. I couldn't believe it. Over 15 lines of credit, from small ones for $3,000 to giant ones for almost $20. Some are active, some are in collections, and all of them are in my name. With her email address. I felt something slowly sliding down my back. It was cold. Maybe it was fear. Or maybe it was the beginning of hatred. I clicked on one of the applications. There, among the contact information, was something new. A phone number. It wasn't mine, and not hers. I dialed it, just like that. At rando, a man's voice, soft, pleasant, younger. "Is this Marlon?" he said while I remained silent. I hung up the phone. My hands were shaking. Odd, not with anger, but with doubt. Because something inside me started to crack. I'm not a moron, am I? I've been reading people all my life. I knew when they were lying. I would know if she was, well, seeing someone else. But now I didn't know anything. I opened her mail again. In the sent tab, there was a letter to that number. Just one sentence. "Everything is fine. He doesn't suspect anything." And the date was 2 days before I found the first letters about the loans. That's when I threw up. Literally, I threw up. I ran to the bathroom and grabbed the sink. And only one thought was running through my head. Marlon. Who were you talking to? I went back to the bedroom. I looked at her, at this woman with whom I had lived for 40 years. We lost a child together. Together we survived illnesses, losses, and moves. We slept in a car in the 90s. We ate rice and canned food for weeks. And now she tells someone he doesn't suspect anything. Who is? And who the hell are you, Marlene? I decided to do something I had never done in my life. I got on her Facebook, and I went to her messages, and there he was, a contact called Don. There were not many messages, but each one was like a slap in the face. "I can't write for long, he's nearby. You are my breath of fresh air. You make me feel alive. Everything will be settled soon. Just be patient. And one more thing that killed me completely. He still thinks we're happy." I sat there with my laptop on my lap and felt like a man. Not a human being. Ava, not even a victim. I was a nobody. A ghost. A financial shell from which she pulled resources. And she reported to someone. Who is Don? How long has this been going on? Is it about love? Or is it about money? Or maybe both? And, most importantly, if I told her what I knew, what would happen? I decided to keep quiet. Just a little longer. To play the game. To pretend that I didn't suspect anything. But a plan was already being born in my heart. I wanted to know everything. Every last brick of her lies. And then I had to decide what to do next. Because I had already seen the truth. But whether I was ready to live with it was another question. Breakfast that morning was different. Marlene made pancakes as she always did on Saturdays. She was smiling. And I watched her pour maple syrup on mine and thought, how can you lie so skillfully and not tremble your hands? We sat across from each other. She told me that she had a dream, something about the beach and lobsters. And I listened and heard only the rustle of her lies. For the first time in 40 years, I didn't trust the person who made me coffee, and it was bitter, even with 3 spoons of sugar. "Or are you waiting for someone?" I asked when she looked at her phone for a second. "What?" she asked again, a little confused. She smiled. "No, that it's just a yoga group talking about a trip to Sedona." "Yoga. Sedon," I nodded. "Okay," I said calmly. "What about our finances?" She tensed a little. "What do you mean?" "I was thinking maybe we could review our expenses. We see where our money is going. Sam, we have everything under control. I'm the one who does all the bills. Which is why I think it's time we looked at together, as a team." She was silent for a few seconds. Then she set her cup down. "We are a team, aren't we that, aren't we?" was like a blow. I smiled. "I'm not so sure anymore." She got up without finishing. She went to the bedroom. I heard the door close, and I was boiling inside. I was boiling because I saw that she was not afraid. She was wary, because a liar is always afraid of one thing: exposure. You know, when trust disappears, everything seems fake. Her smile, her voice, even the smell of her shampoo suddenly disgusts you. Because you are no longer with the person who loves you. You live with an actress. And in this play, you are a fool who doesn't understand anything. In the afternoon, I went to the garage. She thought I was going to work on the shelf, but I just wanted to be away. There, among the old boxes, I found her old laptop, dusty and sealed up, but I remembering the password was her mom's name. Classic. I opened it, and there, in one of the documents, was a table. The A list of all the loans, dates. The amounts, comments next to it. To be repaid from Don's money. Transfer from personal to joint. Sam doesn't know. I sat and just looked at the screen. I was betrayed. Maya, but not with my body. With trust, my money, with my future. I walked into the house, laptop in hand. "What is it, Marline?" I asked. She was standing in the kitchen. She froze. "What is it?" And I put the laptop on the table and opened the file I needed. This? Her face changed. For the first time, it was sincere. Not fear. Not even shame. "You weren't supposed to see it," she whispered. "But I did," I screamed. And you know what the worst part is? That I was making excuses for you. I thought maybe it was some bank that made a mistake, and you." I didn't finish, because at that moment something in me broke. I didn't want to scream anymore. I wanted silence. Absolute silence. Cold. Silence where I wasn't us anymore. "We're not a team anymore," I said quietly. "You were running the game. I was just a piece, a Sam. Don't. I went to the bedroom. I closed the door. I sat on the edge of the bed. I realized that the night was long gone. It was a new day, but without us. The next morning I got a call from the bank. Sir, we need to discuss your new loan for $45,000 urgently. A new one." And then I realizing the game is still on. Or perhaps it had just begun. I was sitting on the porch. In my hand was an old flask, a gift from my father. It took a sip of bourbon. It peaked like the truth I had just learned. Everything was spinning in my head, the loans, Don, Marlene, the lies. And one thought like a nail. Enough. I had lived my whole life like a fool. I worked honestly, didn't ask too much, trusted. Family, I was told, is sacred. But when the sacred starts stealing from your pocket, sleeping with someone else and twisting you like a rag, you either break or become steel. I remembered my grandfather. He was a miner. Silent but principled. If you screwed up, you take responsibility. If you lie, apologize and take the hit. And most importantly, never let yourself be made a fool of in your own home. That's what I remember. And now it was time to act. I collected all the documents, statements, credit reports, postal receipts. I made copies, and I hid them in 3 different places. Because trust is a luxury. And then I called Joey, my old friend with whom we were repairing the boat back in 2002, and at the same time solving the issue with the insurance company. Joey knew people. "Are you sure you want to do this?" he asked. "I don't want to play dumb anymore," I replied. "And if she thinks I'm going to give up, she's forgotten who she lives with. Then, old school, bro, only way." I took her phone. When she was sleeping. I took screenshots of every text message she had with Don, every transaction, every word she ever said to humiliate me. Then I put everything on a flash drive, and I wrote on the flash drive with a marker for the court, if anything. The next day I met her in the kitchen. No emotions. "We'll talk," I said. She sat down. Sam. "No, you're not talking. I'm talking. I've laid it all out, the loans, the correspondence, the lies. You have 2 options. Either we settle everything peacefully and you leave, no trial, no humiliation, or I do it differently. The old-fashioned way." She pressed her lips together. I just wanted to make it easier for us. I laughed, loudly, harshly. "You didn't even ask. You stole our lives, our peace of mind, our old age." I looked her straight in the eye. Don't think I'll forgive you. Because the old school doesn't forgive. I knew that everything in this country was based on papers. Not love, not trust, documents, testimonies, facts. And I had them. I agreed with a lawyer. I formalized everything, property accounts, change of access, step by step, without making too much noise, because those who shout are still in doubt. I did not. Do you know what hurt the most? Not the money. Not the betrayal. It was the fact that we were we. for half a lifetime. We laughed when the TV broke down. We held hands when we buried my brother. We were the ones who survived everything. And then she made a choice. And now I was making mine. In the evening, when she came out of the shower, her suitcases were already at the door. I'll give you 3 days. Where am I going to go? You can write to that Don. Maybe he'll give you a place to stay. And if not, well, as my grandfather used to say, every man is his own blacksmith. But I had another thought in my head. This is not the end. There is a darker side to this story that she hasn't told, and I'm going to find it. I never liked CSI, but damn it, there was something true in that line they used to say. People lie? Evidence doesn't. And although I did not have white gloves and did not work in a laboratory, I had something much better inner cold. Because when your heart is broken, your mind becomes very sober. After I kicked her out of the house, I thought it would get easier. But it didn't. Instead, my thoughts started to come in. She used to laugh when the foam on the coffee was crooked, and for the last few months she has been silent like a prisoner. When I asked her why she was late, she would say, there were lines at the store, and she smelled like someone else's cologne, not food. And I, an old fool, believed her. It didn't start suddenly. Just one morning I thought, what if she's not just lying about the loans? What if she's with someone? And my stomach clenched. It was like the first time I saw her in that white dress, only in reverse. I called Frank. He worked in security at a bank, and at the same time he collected dirt on people for divorces. Yes, I know, not very ethical. But when you're 60 and you've been humiliated to the bottom, a morality rests, name, photo, phone number, and I'll tell you who whispers to her at night. Do you think there's someone out there? I asked. A week later, I received a flash drive. There were photos on it, dates, correspondence, places. She's leaving a hotel in Jersey. She's sitting in a restaurant, holding the hand of not Don. And then it hit me again. Don was just the tip of the iceberg. The real one was hiding in the shadows. His name was Marcus, 55 years old. He owned an air conditioning repair service. He was divorced, and the most interesting thing was that his business registered to her. Yeah, my Marlin. Since last July, it wasn't just a betrayal, and it was a business plan. And I, the fool, paid for it with loans. I sat in the kitchen, staring at the picture of her kissing him. The same mouth that had once whispered to me, "You are my everything," was now whispering to someone else. And suddenly it hit me. I wasn't angry. I felt empty. Because there is nothing worse than realizing you loved a person who never existed. I remembered the day we took the first toaster on credit. We laughed because the bread was burnt. She threw the ashes into the sink and said, "You and I are like these toasts. Sometimes we burn, but always together." And now, the toasters are burnt. And she had been cooking breakfast in someone else's kitchen for a long time. I didn't tell her I knew. I didn't break anything. I started collecting documents, photos, evidence. Because I didn't need revenge, I needed the truth. And even though I had already learned more about her than I wanted to, one thought kept nagging at me. What if this is not the end? What if it's even worse? I sat down in my chair. I turned on the old radio. There was some song from my childhood was playing. I smiled. Because I finally stopped hoping for something. And when you don't expect anything, that's when the most interesting things start. I've always thought that a house is a defense. You have walls, a roof, a fridge with beer, an old TV. Everything is simple. Everything is yours. But when you stay there alone, every creak of the floor sounds like a mockery. Because a small house is not always a cozy place. Sometimes it's a cage. I did not move. I stayed in the same hovel where we lived for 35 years. Not because I wanted to, but because there was nowhere else to go. And every wall here knew more than I did. They heard her calls, her laughter, her tears, her laughter with others. And now they listened to me breathing heavily at night. In the morning, I pretended to have things to do. I took out the mail, cleaned the car, trimmed the bushes. even though they had long since given up. Anything to avoid sitting on the couch, where she used to knit, and now there was only her old blanket. I didn't throw it away, because even the smell of betrayal was better than complete silence. I started writing a list. What I had to dog, change the locks. Seal the photo. Cancel the joint accounts. But I didn't change the locks. I couldn't paste over the photo the children's eyes were too alive. And the accounts. She had already taken everything she could from them. She left me 48 cents in a cable bill. On Sunday, Travis came to visit me. My son. He's 38. He's married. He lives in Florida. Dad, you have to change something, he said. You've become like a ghost. I'm not a ghost. I just don't want to live a lie anymore. It's not a life, it's a punishment. Well, what am I supposed to do? And to paint everything pink and pretend it never happened. Start small, sell this house. Start from scratch. I looked out the window, at the tree I planted when his sister was born. 0 is not a beginning. 0 is death with a makeover. That night I woke up to a noise. It was raining. It was pouring like a bucket. I went out to the porch. I sat down on an old bench that creaked as if it was also in pain. I just watched the water wash the dirt off the road. Oh no, there was something cleansing about it, and then I saw the box. It was lying by the door. It was wet, sour, no signature. I opened it. Inside was a photo album. Ours, the one I thought she had thrown away. And a letter. Handwritten. The handwriting is familiar. Hers. I don't know who I am without you, but I know who I am with him, and I'm scared. I'm sorry we got lost. Nothing more. I didn't scream, I didn't cry, didn't laugh. I just felt something sink inside me, like a load that no longer makes sense to carry. Because sometimes forgiveness is not a path to peace, but a ticket to an even worse war. A small house, 2 bedrooms. An old kitchen, walls that have kept everything but the heat. We built it as a nest. But it turned out to be a swamp, because when one wing breaks, the bird no longer flies. It just sits there and rots. I didn't know what to do with the letter. Should I burn it, keep it, send it back? I had no answer. But I knew one thing, this is not the end. This is just the beginning of a whole other hell. I must have read her letter 100 times. Every word is like a scar, but every pause was like a knife in the ribs. But do you know what was the worst part? She didn't ask me to come back. She asked me to forgive her. And that was a much more difficult choice. I was sitting in the kitchen. It was morning, or a coffee that smelled more like emptiness than vigor. A photo album in front of me, and that letter. She wrote that she was afraid to live with him, that it was not love, but an escape. Thua, that I was her umbrella in the rain that she broke herself. I thought for a long time, why is she writing me this? Because she is sad. Because she feels sorry for me. Because her new lover turned out to be worse than her former accountant. And there was only one question in my heading, what if she just wants me to save her? But do I have to? The phone rang at the most ridiculous moment. The number was unknown, I answered it. Hi, it's Cindy. Oh, who? I worked with your Meg at school. Oh, yeah. Hi, I'm sorry to bother you. It's just... She came to me yesterday. She was in tears. I didn't know who else to turn to. Wait, what's wrong? I think she wants to go home. But she doesn't know how to ask. I hung up and hung up. If I let her in, I lose again. If I don't let her in, I'm completely alone. And at this age, this is no longer romance. It's a sentence. I went out into the yard. I looked at the tree. It was that tree again, the symbol of our family. It stood, even though it had been threatened by 5 hurricanes, and each time it survived. I opened an old drawer. There were our letters from our youth, when we wrote to each other like children, like fools in love. It wasn't easy then either. But we always found the words, and now there are too many words, and all of them were tinged with pain. It was Friday, 5 in the evening. I heard a familiar engine. It was her, standing at the gate, nothing in her hands. Her eyes were red. Hello, she said quietly. There a hello, I replied. There are 15 steps and 35 years between us. We were sitting on the porch. The sun was setting. She was silent. Then she spoke first. "You have the right to hate me." "Or I don't. I'm just tired. I did something stupid. I know. I'm not asking you to start over." "What are you asking? Just let me be there for you. Even as a friend, I didn't say anything for a long time. Me, because I didn't know what was worse, to believe again or to let go completely. All these years I have been building, brick by brick. Not perfectly, but with love. And one day, she just took a sledgehammer. And now she stands in front of me and holds the pieces of what's left in her hands. And she asked me if I could mold them into something new. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I just got up, went into the house, and put another cup of coffee on the stove. And she followed me in silence. And my heart was silent, because it knew there are things that will never be the same. But maybe something new will come out of them. Or better, that's a whole other story. I thought that the ending was when everything falls into place. But as it turned out, the ending is just another morning, sometimes with a new person by your side, and sometimes with the same person, only different. A month has passed since that evening, when she came, when I didn't kick her out, when we didn't hug. We just drank coffee in silence. And every morning after that, another one. No promises, no tears, no everything will be fine. Meg moved back in, but not to the bedroom, she said. Let's take it one step at a time. They lived like neighbors, after 38 years of marriage, and it was wild, and somehow honest. I started reading again. She started painting. We were silent in the evenings, and then sometimes we would suddenly talk about everything, even about him. A hit. Turns out he didn't beat her, but he didn't listen either. He only wanted one thing, her pension account. One rainy morning I told her, "Meg, you ruined my life." She closed her eyes. "I know, but I don't want to live in the past anymore," and that was the first "we" in a long time. Tom suddenly called. "Dad, I want to come over." Come over. Is Mom coming? She will. But she's not the same as she was. And me too. I came a week later, with my grandchildren, with news, with stories. And we were all sitting in the same kitchen, where until recently there was nothing left, except bitterness and debt. I am not a hero. I did not forgive everything. I have not become a saint. But I wake up, drink coffee, dig in the garden, and even smile. And sometimes I hug her, and I think maybe all is not lost, and maybe not. The other day I came across an old letter from her, the one that started it all, crumpled, tarnished. But it was still there, and I didn't throw it away, because it was he who reminded me that even the most painful things can be a turn and not the end. In the evening we sat on the porch, me, her, an old blanket, and silence. And as she turned to me and said, "You could have left." I knew. Why didn't you? Because I'm not a hero, Meg. I just didn't give up. And she silently put her hand on my shoulder. And nothing more needed to be said. Will there be a happy ending? Who knows? We are old. We are beaten. But we are alive. And every day we choose to love or to hold a grudge, to laugh or to cry, to stay or to go. And every time the choice is not obvious. If you have listened to this story, it means that it is about you too. Because each of us has our own Meg, our own leaf, our own tree, and our chance not to give up. Subscribe to the channel if you feel at least a little bit of truth, because the next story may be even closer. Thank you for being with us.